Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've talked about all of the movies.
Yes, we did.
We've talked about all of the shows from last year, the Disney Plus shows.
Yep, so far.
And what an exciting time to be alive.
Oh, we're back, baby. We are back in it.
We're this week, and I guess for the next 6 or 7 or weeks, we'll be talking.
Or 9 or 10 or
forever.
however long.
Yeah, we're going to be changing up our personalities. We're going to be going into trances, losing track of time, which is honestly not hard to do.
No, right now, no, it's totally possible.
I think maybe that's why I really like this show. You can really empathize with
Really
not knowing where
it.
you are, what time it is, and what you were doing.
What day is it?
Very forgetful.
Yeah.
But we're going to be
tired
talking about,
all the time.
we're going episode by episode talking about Moon Knight, a brand new Disney Plus series that released. And honestly, if you haven't watched it, you're only one episode behind.
Yeah, so.
And this is episode 1, the Goldfish Problem. We're going to be breaking down what we think is going on, what we're most excited for, and cover any Easter eggs. Although I will say, compared to other series, I don't think there's going to be as many Easter eggs. This is kind of its own thing. But my name's Emmanuel.
My name is Sophia.
And we're...
Back in it.
Back in it. We were thinking about new titles because we've had some fun. We had...
Watching
WandaVision, looking at Loki.
Yeah.
What do you have any thoughts about Moon Knight? Anything we can? I mean, of course, the listeners already know because they're staring at it on their phone.
Right.
Any ideas?
No,
any thoughts?
No ideas. There's like adjectives, but I realized that we probably need like a verb, right?
Yeah.
To watch, to describe the action of watching or like listening or
and
paying
we've been
attention
into
to.
alliteration, so starting with them is nice. But there's not a ton.
No.
Mommy?
Yeah.
Mommy's Moon Knight?
Mommy's and Moon Knight.
And then we can do Zaddy's Moon Knight. That'll be on a different app.
But that's gonna be with a whole different type of production. So
yeah. Well, this is a really exciting show to talk about because it is not directly connected with the rest of the MCU, which is special in its own way. It's somewhat an origin story, but I mean, we'll talk about this episode, not necessarily one. It kind of just drops you right in the middle of what's going on in his life. But it's, I want to hear from you, Sophia. What are your thoughts on the very first episode of Moon Knight? What'd you think?
Ooh, okay. So, all right. Oscar Isaac, I love you so much. The accent for me, it was like on and off. I literally, and also like for me to like sold to me. I think I like it more when the other version of himself comes out, and it's just like, I got this, let me have this. Like, but that's just like Poe Dameron, right? Like we are just in love with Oscar Isaac as is, but my gosh, the hair, the look, the makeup, the tiredness, I understand. And I'm here for it, to be honest. And all of the like intensity that he brings to the screen of just like acting just shit-faced all the time. Like he's just completely out of it. I love it. And it's like you really, really empathize with him fairly simply within this character because you're like, oh my god, this poor fucking guy. Like, just look at his whole morning routine of like checking to make sure that he didn't break anything, checking to make sure that he's not like actually going insane, even though like, I mean, you know, ain't no thing. But he misses the day. Like, there's just so much that you are just like, damn, dude, like, get your shit together. Like, oh my god, like, and he's like on the cusp of like figuring this shit out for himself. You know, and then he just sees some pretty insane Egyptian type god shit that's just kind of running his life, which is obviously gonna like throw you through a fucking loop within yourself. So, yeah, no, I've been in love with it since the first step, which is this. So yeah, I'm already hooked. I love it.
This episode definitely treads the line, and I think that's what's really unique. We talked about last week how this plays into the personality disorder that this character has.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to it with one of his lowest, I would say, self-esteem characters in Stephen Grant, who's a gift shop employee, just an incredibly, I would say, normal Joe kind of guy who is, it's an interesting choice to have as the one that the audience is introduced to, because Mark Spector is the more famous alias to Moon Knight, and we do see Mark Spector,
Mark,
the American
yes.
mercenary, but Mark Spector
Yeah.
is I would say one of the main personalities. So it's interesting that we get the like lowly gift shop worker, and I think it's a little more fun because of all of the personalities that couldn't handle the changes and what is happening. It would probably be
Yeah.
him. It'd be kind of this regular Joe Schmo, kind of klutzy, works in a gift shop, kind of has a boss that's kind of rough on him, and I really enjoy the way that I guess, just visually and aesthetically do the whole transformation thing, where he just wakes up somewhere else and he's trying to figure it out just
Oh,
like we
yeah.
are. And
That's a
that's
good
why I
point.
said this isn't necessarily an origin story, because I'm sure we're at some point we're gonna kind of get that explainer between how Mark Spector gets Khonshu inside of him when he's close to death. But it's not necessarily something that they need to show right away. And that's what's really fun about, I think, the show so far, is we can kind of discover things the way this character Steven would, and I think that's really fun and
Yeah.
exciting and visually more appealing, I would think. And that's, I texted the guys, this show reminds me a lot of like Split,
Mm-hmm.
that James McAvoy M Night Shyamalan movie where he plays all these different personalities. Of course, that's a little easy, but Split, Memento, and Batman. Of course, Batman's kind of like Moon Knight and Mark Spector, but Memento, that Christopher Nolan movie where he kind of forgets stuff and has to leave notes for himself, and
Yeah.
it's really fun to kind of go along with that journey, and it's
It's like,
not necessarily like a cookie cutter kind of superhero origin
right.
type show, which is
Mm-hmm.
exciting, especially since this is like the 30th thing that Marvel has done
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get something that's exciting like this. It's really fun.
Yeah. I will say that like he just going on this journey with him is definitely going to like change my perspective of like what defines a superhero, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
he's just going to have to eventually it's going to have to come to a choice, right? Like, or he's going to have to be able to manage it at some point, but like how understanding now like where this other whole life, because I mean it's not just like he has different personalities, like he has whole different lives that he's
Yeah.
living. So like for him as a person to make a choice at some point
Yeah.
of
Well,
what he's going to.
and this may be jumping towards the end a little bit, but there's a part of him, and this is what's really cool about the comic book character, is
Hmm.
he is aware. I mean, it's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and we actually kind of see this with Banner on the Hulk, when Banner decides like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
it's time for the
yeah, yeah,
Hulk.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But it's fun because he has maybe double, if not triple, the amount of personalities.
Right.
And we kind of this kind of happens at the end when Steven looks at the mirror and he's in trouble. He lets Moon Knight, Khonshu, and Mark Spector, he lets him kind of take over. And I think that's what's really fun, is he can do that. He can say, well, this is something where we need a little bit more, conniving god vibes,
Yeah.
or it's time for me to just be kind of a suave millionaire type and ask out a
Right.
girl or something. And I think that's what's really fun. And we kind of got we talked about how careful he is. He's got himself chained up. He puts he triple checks his doors. He's got sand around his bed. But we know that even that's not good enough. Like, we see him in certain moments,
Right.
like
And
out
he's
outside of his room.
he's
So,
he's still fucked up.
and we're gonna see I'm sure we're gonna see an awesome segment where we see Oscar Isaac escaping all of those bonds from Steven.
Oh, yeah,
And
uh-huh.
it's not necessarily. It's gonna be really impressive because he doesn't leave a mark. He doesn't
Yeah.
leave a trace behind. But it's
It's
nice.
gonna almost look easy.
Oh yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the villains so far. So Ethan Hawke is in this, and
Yeah.
so Arthur Harrow is kind of the alias of his. He's leading a cult. We see people
Yeah.
that are followers of himself, followers of followers of
His
followers.
followers.
And he's doing this judgment thing, which is
Right.
really interesting. He's doing it for the god Amit,
Yeah.
the devourer of the dead, and kind of, if you're worthy, then you get to live. If you're not, you die.
Or if you, it's
and he
like
sucks
if you,
your life.
yeah, it's like if you sin or something, like you're
And it's
just
not
gonna
even
know.
like sin. It's if you're gonna
It's-
commit a future sin.
Then all
then
right,
it
also
doesn't matter,
buy.
yeah. It's kind of like Minority Report, the little balls that tell you of future crimes or whatever. But it is kind of like It's an interesting, appealing, I think, cult leader type thing.
Yeah, for sure, because people want to know,
Yeah.
right?
And you've
Like
got a cool tattoo that,
right. That
judges you.
that moves
Yeah.
and changes color. What?
It's like me and my tramp stamp. If you don't,
Every time you bend over
yeah,
in
it judges
in
you.
front of someone and
Yeah.
they see it because they're looking, judgment.
My tramp stamp also moves, but that's because of my
That's
body.
because of the
Yeah, that's
twerking.
because of my weird body.
very-
not so
it's-
much. It's not supernatural.
It's very impressive, though.
Yeah. What do you think about Ethan Hawke or
About your
Arthur
tramp
Harrow?
stamp?
No, yeah. What do you think about? Check this out.
Both?
Look at this. Yeah.
Both?
Mhm.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I have two tramp stamps.
It's
Yeah.
just as impressive as the first time I've seen it.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right.
It's amazing.
What do you think about Arthur Harrow so far?
I think that I don't necessarily like the opening scene where he crushes the glass
Yeah,
and
on
puts
his
it
feet.
inside of his shoes.
And if you're not sure about like whether kids can watch this, you'll know within the
Within
first
the first
minute.
5
Yeah,
seconds.
he is definitely screwing up the soles of his feet by walking on glass.
I think that that's icky. Like it just the
not
sound.
the good icky, not sticky icky, baby brother.
No. No, like the why the fuck would you do that type icky?
Yeah.
Like I very much like ugh, like, and then no, the hair doesn't do it for me. The clothing doesn't do it for me.
Real
The
cult.
tone of voice, he screams cult leader. Like that's the whole vibe I'm getting, and it's true.
Yeah.
I also think that it's scary as hell because in just like an instant with the knobbing of his cane and then also just that
The knobbing of his cane.
I don't know how to describe it. The swinging of his cane. Yeah. Damn, that sounded real bad, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
He's swinging his cane
He's swinging
left
his
and right.
cane all
yeah.
around. No, yeah, it's real creepy vibes, but it's got to be part of it, right? And also, like, I'm not entirely sure if what attacks Oscar Isaac is like working for him or like what's going on.
Well,
like,
he is.
that
So
I
his
don't
character
understand.
is, and he talks about it a little bit here. Is there's an Egyptian god Amit that is kind of calling the shots and using him as a vessel. And if we're kind of to believe, I mean, and there's also kind of the MacGuffin thing. And I was telling John, we had lunch, and I said that, all of this new MCU stuff, because it happens in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and it happens a little bit in WandaVision, but there's a lot of
The questing.
no, there's a lot of objects that aren't supposed to be here.
Oh yeah.
And that's the source of the power. And then maybe because of the divergence thing from Loki, but there is another MacGuffin in this, and that is the scarab that he really wants. Arthur really wants.
that little beetle thing?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
golden beetle. And it may be kind of the source of the power for Moon Knight. We don't
For
know
Moon Knight,
yet.
yeah.
But again, it's another thing that's probably from another dimension
Or he's
that got over here, and now it's giving powers. And there's a lot of reports that this is the next phase of Marvel. The mutants are because of objects that come from another, place. We already know about the Ten Rings when Doctor Strange spoiler alert, the end of that movie says like, oh, these aren't supposed to be here.
Right.
I think the scarab's kind of the same thing. The reason why Khonshu's in Mark Spector, and maybe one of the reasons why Arthur Harrow has his weird obsession with Amit and is, stealing people's souls and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with it, but I'm sure that's like...
Or like the lack of the actual thing is preventing Homeboy from getting even more powerful and like being able to judge like more people or like just having all that control of like these spiritual things.
I think it's what
I say things because I don't know what else is gonna pop up. Like I know some more shit's gonna go down.
and there's so much that happens in this because we already talked about the demon dog at the end, but it's conjured by Arthur who tracks down Stephen. So it's not so much that it seems like Marc Spector, the mercenary version of whatever we're calling this, has a history with Arthur, but obviously Stephen has no idea who he is, and he visits him in the museum. Like the lines are converging in the first episode, so they kind of know who each other are, and that's really interesting. I am also kind of I'm really excited about kind of the Egyptian lore. Hopefully it's appropriate and not just like appropriation of the symbols of Egyptian gods and Middle Eastern mythology and stuff.
It's very cool.
I think it's exciting to see that in the context because when we talk about that demon dog, that's not the last that we're going to see.
No. I'm sure some more crazy shit's going to go down.
It's really cool and unique. What did you think about actual Khonshu? Because it is kind of played up like a horror type element to see
100%.
Khonshu, this god, kind of creeping up behind him. He's in an
Yeah.
elevator at some point. Like it is
He's outside of the bus watching him.
yeah,
Like
it's spooky.
I love it. I think that like that hallway scene with that old woman.
Yeah.
Oof, that got me. That got me good.
Yeah.
Also like just the because he's just standing behind him, which I think like having that aura like
Yeah.
is just gonna give you
And knowing
a
it's
chill.
might be inside of you.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like it's just it's pretty insane. I think I would definitely be just as paranoid if I had something like that, or if I just caught a glimpse of it following me or being around me or whatever, especially if I'm like losing sleep and if I'm, trying to force myself to stay
Yeah.
awake and all that jazz. Like there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then especially when I fucking wake up in a completely different place and not even understand why, or if it's a dream, or like again, like you empathize with Oscar Isaac here because you're like, damn, like there's so much at play and it's trippy as
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, it's one of the existential, because I mean obviously in terms of like his character, there's a little bit of acceptance at the end of this. I don't know how far it'll go, but I mean Khonshu is not a mutual. I mean he saved his life. Okay, so he's pretty grateful, and I'm sure he owns him a ton.
But he needs Steve to be alive.
But he's not. There's going to be personalities, and there's going to be a conflict where he probably doesn't want that. He doesn't want Khonshu around. And
Yeah.
that acceptance, I think, is going to be the ultimate journey for him. But it's going to be tough, apart from the fact that he is, saving your life. But he may also be the reason why you're in these situations to begin with. And that's, I think, one of the big differences with him and the Hulk is the fact that, Hulk has some awareness. I mean, in Endgame, he is kind of half Banner, half the Hulk.
already.
But it is kind of an interesting thing that we know is going to happen. There's going to be a conflict within himself where he's not wanting to be in these really dangerous parts. And then of course, like which personality is going to take over? Who's the main one, and what's the reason for having kind of a timid Steven, apart from like a hardcore Mark Spector.
Yeah. Also, how
mercenary
long?
type.
How long are they going to stay in Drive?
And how long? Yeah. What'd you think about kind of the effect? And it kind of reminds me.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Well, it reminds me of first season Game of Thrones, or even the second, whenever there would be a battle and you didn't see it. Like Tyrion Tyrion Lannister gets like a concussion, so we don't see the battle. Does that make sense? We don't see the big battle because he was asleep or something like that. There's something really similar to this where he's out of it, and when he wakes up, it's just the fight is over. Like he's already won.
Yeah. I wish that they showed like there's like moments whenever it's just like super quick glimpses of what's going on, or
Yeah.
like one happening in like another place, or like
And definitely
that,
in the end, we actually see Moon Knight.
yes,
for the
like
first
that
time, yeah.
that shaky camera type effect. I love that. Love to see that. I don't like when they just cut straight to it. That's not fun for me. I want to see just like a little bit of like, give me some more blood on his hand to like help me put together what just happened in like something quicker or slower, I guess, than a minute, because I'm just like, wait, I'm trying to digest what just happened. I don't necessarily like the effects of this movie, if that makes sense.
Show?
Or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, show. Because it looks like old Marvel, no?
Yeah,
Like
I
the
think
CGI
that's,
stuff is fairly obvious.
I bet they're playing, and you're not alone. This is, I mean, and it's hard not to notice it, especially if you have a 4K TV, which everyone has nowadays.
Yeah.
But it is a very interesting amount of CG that isn't 100% perfect in this. And
Yeah.
it's odd. Like it almost
first
there's-
step.
it's like video game looking car chases. But I will
Yeah.
say I noticed some of this in Hawkeye. There was that big car chase in Hawkeye, and I was like, well, these trucks
Yeah.
don't look like they're part of the road. Like they look
Yeah.
totally different. And there's some of that happening here. And I mean, I'll just chalk it up to maybe the fact that it is a TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to do a million more shots than a movie.
Yeah.
And they have like super tight deadlines and whatever. So I get it, but it is really interesting that they thought this was good enough.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That they're like,
I
it's
felt-
fine. No one cares.
I felt like Leonardo DiCaprio in that meme where he's like pointing at the TV and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, there's more.
Yeah, you're
there
like,
it is."
this is so weird. There's a really bright cupcake that's a totally animated thing,
Right.
running down the road, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's that suspended animation stuff. But apart from that, like I enjoy the way this show
The action's a
looks.
lot of fun.
Yeah, the action's a lot of fun,
Lot
and
of
it's
fun.
only going to get better, of course.
Oh,
The
I
more
know.
we see Moon Knight and his other aliases and stuff that fight, but
Yeah.
just like the way this series looks is really like cinematic. Like there's so much intention
The
behind it.
the lighting
We
is
got
so
a lot of like
beautiful.
of reflection and
Oh,
upside
yeah.
down puddle shots that are all on purpose, like,
Yeah.
to show the duality of his personalities and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely not a. I think we already said, like, it's not cookie cutter, but it's definitely unique, and I like that because it's a show that has kind of its own language, which
Yeah.
is so good.
I love
think.
the mirror scene in the elevator, like when he's stuck looking at multiples of himself, and it's just like, whoa, what the fuck
Yeah,
is
it's like the
going on?
worst case scenario for
Love
him.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also like I'm excited because we may get some really cool sequences, not just with Moon Knight, but with us seeing him change. Because right now we're in his point of view. We disappear and come back, wake up
Right.
the next
We
morning.
don't know what's going on.
But to see, and this is what was really impressive about when McAvoy did it with Split, is the camera kind of stays on him, and then in an instant he just switches. His face, his body language, all of it. And
Right.
Oscar Isaac can do that, so I'm not worried about him. But I'm excited for that moment because it's coming. We're gonna see him change.
Yeah.
And it may not be, if he's changing even just to different personalities, I think that'd look cool. Because obviously, when he changes to Moon Knight, it's just
We
going to be
haven't
a
seen
CGI
it yet. Huh?
looking
I think the
thing.
closest thing that we have seen to that is just that final bathroom scene whenever he
Yeah.
has to defeat the demon
Yeah.
dog, and it's just like he's looking at himself and he's like, okay, fine.
I'll let you take it.
We don't
And then we
see
kind
it,
of come up on him already
but
beating the
yeah,
animal.
the
Yeah.
widow doggy.
But we're going to see a lot more of that. So I'm not too worried about it, but I think that's going to be really impressive just to notice. What do you think about kind of the way they approach this first episode? Not necessarily giving us a straight up origin, but dropping us in the middle of nowhere. Do you think, we did a whole episode before this app, but do you think this would seem to be a little confusing for some people? Or, because I honestly really enjoyed it.
For a younger audience, I do think it would be confusing.
Like little kids.
Yeah, for sure, don't watch it if you're a kid, and don't let your kids watch it. I'm not telling you how to live your life,
Yeah.
but
Let them watch it. There's worse stuff they're already looking at, is what I'll say.
I think
probably.
maybe like a high schooler would be fine watching this. Middle school is like, I don't think
Sophia,
they'd be.
they're watching this.
11, 12, 13.
They're watching
I mean,
this.
I know that some of my first graders legitimately watch Squid Game, which I'm like really
There's like
disappointed in.
8-year-old kids
But-
playing,
Yeah, they're in first grade, I know. Or second grade.
Five Nights at Freddy's. What's the really scary murder game?
There's one
with
that's
the-
5 now.
yeah.
Poppy's Playtime is really scary
I
too.
gotta tell you off mic, but
Poppy Playtime.
there was a kid much younger who was asking me to put it on my iPad, and I was like, "Wow, you're like 4."
That's sad.
But
okay.
anyways, yeah.
Anyways,
we
but-
sound old. That's our moment of old.
But the children, yeah. No, I think that some people may, I don't know if this is necessarily like what you're asking me, but if you have like epilepsy, like, are you going to be okay watching this? Like with all the flipping and all of
Yeah.
the like shakiness? I don't think that's,
yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be triggering.
They'll give a warning, I'm sure. If it's,
Yeah. If it's too intense.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't watch it if I was like half asleep either, like it would be really confusing
Yeah.
and it would trip me out. But yeah, I think it had just enough
Yeah.
mystery for me, just enough action.
And we honestly stay with Steven the majority of the time. Actually,
Yeah.
all of the time.
Yeah, that's going to
It's
be another
always
cool thing
Steven.
is getting another episode in other personalities' points of view.
Yeah.
I think that would be really, really cool. And yeah, no, I I really think that it's just gonna scare me even more. But I like to be scared, so like if there's
Yeah.
any more scenes like
Those creatures
like
are
the ones
cool.
that we saw, like I'm here for
The
it. I
jackal
really am.
monster looks awesome.
It's just the accent. The accent gets to me.
Let's talk about the clues that we've got. We've got quite a few.
Okay.
clues here. I mean, there's
Clues as
the
in like,
titular goldfish problem. There's something
oh,
going on with
right.
the goldfish they're swapping out, and there's the kind of the mystery, I guess, of how he's getting out without any of his little traps working. But we're gonna see that, especially if Mark Spector or like Moonlight, if he floats, like it's you can get out of there easy.
Right.
But there's there's a really big question, and
Also,
you can Google this already. But there's someone named Layla who calls him.
yes, yeah, on that cell phone.
And her character is already kind of established if you just want to Google who she is. But that's one of those kind of hints of Steven figuring out what's going on when he's not totally in control.
Right. Also, how does he manage a job? Like he keeps showing up like
Yeah,
super late,
missing time. Yeah,
and
days and
his
weeks.
boss is like really flexible about it, and I'm like, I don't know, something's up with that. That's
Yeah.
weird. Why?
He's kind of obsessed with Egyptian
With
mythology
Egypt,
already.
like, are you
Yeah.
serious? That's just that's like nail on the head. No.
Yeah, and there's going to be kind of, I think, I mean, I don't see how we don't get some kind of a backstory type thing later on, which is fine. I appreciate them not actually starting off that way because it's more of a mystery for us to kind of figure it out. But there's so many other personalities we haven't met yet, and I'm enjoying the fact that they picked kind of the most mild mannered one in Steven to be the introduction because
Yeah.
he definitely can't handle what's going on.
No.
And I think it's more fun that way.
I feel like I relate to Steven, Like I wouldn't be able to handle it either. Like
Yeah.
finding all this stuff.
Also, you work at a museum and you're losing days at a time, so that's another reason why
Yeah.
you're kind of like him too, which is really interesting. You coming home with blood all over your hands. It's
yeah, sometimes.
weird.
And then I wake up like in different places and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so
You're
sorry.
like, what
honey."
happened here?
Yeah.
But so let's talk about the next step. What are you looking forward to in the next ep? Do you think we would get? Do you think that Steven is our main personality, or do you think that he's just our intro one? And buckle up, we're gonna get close to a different one every episode.
I say it's gonna be like breadcrumbs, right? Like with the phone, with all the other stuff. Like I think we're gonna get more of that, and Steven's just gonna be like, okay, well, I found one. How many more am I gonna find? And then he's just gonna keep searching, and as he searches for them, they're gonna be triggered, and then we're gonna get more and more personalities as we go. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. And then I also think that Marc is gonna be a big part of it, just because he feels like the weapon of Steven or of this body now. Do you know after this first step, like when he was like, "Give control to me, homeboy, and I'll take care of us," and then he defeated that fucking dinosaur. Oh my god, I'm gonna go sleep. The dog. So yeah, I think that
scary
he's
jackal.
yeah.
looking, yeah.
So I think that that's gonna be pretty much our hands-on weaponry, I guess armor, I should say for Steven or for whoever is driving at the time.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah, we're
see
for
what
sure
else.
getting. We're gonna see more
I think
people.
I think that also the more things that become clear to Steven, the more he's just going to give up on his regular life and realize that there's probably something else that he should be doing.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily that he's going. I think that's going to be the choice that he makes. As I said before, like he's going to eventually hit this wall of like, oh my god, do I keep doing this or do I just like try to fight it as much as possible? I don't think he's going to fight it, or at least I hope he doesn't, because obviously like it would be a really short-lived fight. Like I don't think he would be able to
Oh
win.
yeah, he's gonna accept it, and because he's gonna be in more stuff. So.
Yeah, and
really just controlled, kind of like the Hulk and Banner.
I-
Like it's just gonna be more controlled.
I do want him to have more confidence. I hope
Yeah.
that that's like also part of his arc, is that he just becomes this badass and of like, don't fuck with me. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
get my boy who is also me, but
Yeah,
my
he
boy
can
in the
switch
back
when
of
he
my
needs it
mind.
to, yeah. One of the really fun things is there are moments in this, and we talked about
Mm.
these sequences that are really fun, where he's playing, I guess, with versions of himself. And Oscar Isaac's brother doubled in whenever it was time for
Oh,
him
that's
to
so cool.
interact with himself. His name is Michael Benjamin Hernandez, and it's
Nice.
fun to realize that in all those mirror sequences, it's someone similar to him, and
That's
not
so cool.
necessarily like. I mean, they add him in later, I'm sure, but he's
Right.
got kind of that thing to play with, and we're not even fully.
That means there's gonna be like multiples.
Oh yeah, and there's not even we don't even yet know kind of the and we've kind of alluded to this all the way up to this point, how Kevin Feige said that this character is the most brutal MCU character, and they're not going to shy away from violence, and that I think is we haven't even seen that yet. Like we kind of got it at the end with the Jackal, but he. It's funny though, because I was telling this to John too during lunch. Is they're editing? I don't know if you know this, Sophia. They're editing blood out of a lot of the old MCU series.
Wow, I did not know that.
They're editing blood out of Falcon and Winter Soldier, like a lot of just gratuitous violent stuff. And in this episode,
Okay, where?
he's
Like,
stepping in
what?
glass in the very beginning.
Yeah.
He's got blood all over his hands and his face, like after he fights someone without knowing it, and then he's brutally beating up the jackal at the end. Like it's funny that they're
like
doing that with old stuff, and here we've got like a pretty brutal show, but it's not like HBO crazy yet.
No, and you like hear it too, which is the most intense thing. Like, I wouldn't mind it like watching it or whatever, but the sound effects, it's like, oh,
that's how
man,
you do it. You got to add it. Yeah, you got to squeeze an orange in front of a microphone. Yeah,
shivers
that's how you
down
get
my
those
back.
noises.
I love it. Ugh.
But we're really excited about the next step, and of course there's still a lot of mystery to uncover. We've got Layla, we've got kind of the Khonshu
She said
bit,
he was gone for
Arthur.
like three something,
Oh,
days,
yeah.
3 months,
for sure, and he's not he's not answering his phone. He's got
No.
Khonshu following him around. Like there's a lot
Hallucinating.
to see, but I'm so impressed. I think my biggest takeaway from this is Oscar Isaac is really gunning for that sweet Emmy Gold.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
acting the hell out of this thing. And it's not just,
100%.
I mean, he's an amazing actor
Anyways.
outside of this, but this
Yeah.
is truly like a fantastic role for him. Not just because of the fun of switching personalities, but there's a whole lot of other things I'm sure that he appreciates from this. But
Yeah, plus you get to play with it as an
Yeah,
actor. Like
you
you
get to
get to
have a little fun.
overact if you want to, or you can just play that shit up.
you
Whatever.
gotta pretend you're like, oh, I don't know where I am. All right. Well, let us know what you thought about this episode, the goldfish problem. Oh yeah, that's kind of a big thing we still don't know yet. Is like, is he
goldfish.
replacing his goldfish every now and then, or what's happening?
Something. Well, I mean, if you're gone for days at a time and you don't
Goldfish
feed your
dies,
fish,
yeah.
it's probably gonna die.
No, that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Love it. Excited to see it. I hope he keeps his job. I don't know if he will, but whatevs. I do hope that he gets in contact with the rest of his not the rest of his personalities, because it's like a shit ton of personality, but I do think that he deserves some more explanation, my poor little baby. And then I'm just excited to see some more action. I'm ready to get scared again. I'm excited. Period.
Yeah, what a fun world to be in. I mean, Eternals.
Like in general? Or?
Yeah, well, in the show, not
Yeah.
our world. Our world kind of
Just
sucks.
walk around there. What
Yeah.
a fun world.
But it is, if we're talking about, because the MCU has
Gods.
been playing, very,
This is
I would
Egyptian.
say, grounded looks into like everything's technology.
Yeah.
Even the Vulture in Spider-Man is technically just a dude with like a metallic suit.
Mm-hmm.
He's not an actual vulture. But here we've got Egyptian inspired
gods.
creatures
Yeah.
that are real, and they're not giant robots like they would have been. And but
No.
this happened in the Eternals too, which you still haven't seen. But
I
Eternals has
haven't.
like legit like mythical creatures in it, which is not what Marvel does normally. So I'm excited to kind of dive into kind of this world a little bit more, and then to ultimately see what Arthur's plan ends up being, because he's judging all these people taking souls, but what's going on there?
But where are they going?
Yeah, is a Mitt coming out soon at some point? But yeah, it's really exciting, and I can't wait for the next episode. There's a lot here that's really
Got a
appealing.
couple of days, so,
yeah,
I
just a
mean-
couple of days. Well, join us next week, I'm sure, for another episode of this, where we'll talk about episode 2.
This.
But Sophia, what do you have to plug?
Just the same old stuff. If you want, you can check out all the other shows on Dolphin Pod. They're all pretty great. And if you want to support us even further, you can just go to our Patreon. It's going to be patreon.com/DelphinPod, DelfinPod. And then if you want to follow me on any socials, you sure can. Everything's going to be @_Simply Sophie, SOFIEE.
Thanks so much for listening. You can follow us on all our social media @DelphinPod, and definitely support the pod on Patreon. But you will hear us next week for another episode on Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.